Halo Infinite has officially been delayed until sometime in 2021, which came as a shock to some and, well, less of a shock to others. Regardless though, many fans are falling on both sides of the spectrum. Some are happy about the delay and some are sad, and many others are just somewhere in between. Is the delay though good for Infinite, and is it good for the Halo franchise as a whole? When Infinite was revealed to us less than a month ago, many people were outraged at what we saw, or at the very least a little bit disappointed. Some for more valid reasons than others, but regardless, the product that 343 showed off most definitely still needed work. Work that was going to take some time, which was going to be difficult since Halo Infinite was slated to release later this year. While some fans took issues with various gameplay mechanics that were shown like sprint or the grapple hook, others took issues with some of the newly showcased weapons and their generic nature. Everyone though agreed on one thing, and that was that the graphics did not look good. For a next-gen title, Halo Infinite was not living up to the case, and while technically the build shown to us was older, the game clearly still needed a lot of work. While some who understand a lot more of the technical side of games like Digital Foundry were able to point out that by the use of proper lighting techniques, they could fix some of the graphical issues that Halo Infinite showed us, it was pretty clear that it was going to take time to implement, and 343 even mentioned RTX was not going to be ready for launch. Outside of the graphics and some of the gameplay mechanics in the campaign, fans were also worried on another front. The front that 343 came out and said that due to setbacks, there probably would not be any flighting for the Infinite multiplayer. This was a huge blow to multiplayer fans, as not only do they want to get their hands on the game and test it out, we also want to be able to provide feedback before it's too late. So all this and more had fans really worried. Rumors were circling all over the place, from the possibility that the game wouldn't launch with multiplayer to just general deep-seated issues at 343 as a company. Glassdoor reviews even showed that the state of the development studio was not in a good place. Now, these are all rumors, and the rumor about the game launching without multiplayer was debunked, but regardless, fans were worried, and honestly, we had a right to be worried. Earlier this week though, like I mentioned, 343 came out and gave us a statement about how the game was going to get delayed until 2021, and I think that this is the best thing that could happen not only for Halo Infinite, but Halo as a franchise. Before we get into that though, I do just want to briefly mention some very valid points that I've seen. In 343's statement, they reference that multiple factors have contributed to development challenges, one of those being the obvious one, COVID. Now, as you all know, Halo Infinite has been in development for over 5 years, so while COVID most definitely affected the development cycle here toward the end, there's a good chance that the game was behind schedule anyways and might have been delayed. I don't think this is a point really talking about too much because it all comes down to speculation and rumors, but I did just want to mention it so you can kind of have it in your mind. Now moving on, why is the delay good for Halo Infinite and Halo as a whole? Well, the obvious answer is that this gives 343 more time to polish the game and deliver a better product. Does this mean that they are going to deliver us a great game? Sadly, no, it doesn't guarantee that at all, but at the very least it increases the chances that we get that. One thing many fans are worried about, including myself, was another launch that was missing content like we saw with Halo 5. If you were not around for the launch of Halo 5, 343 launched the game without major features like Forge, Big Team Battle, Social, and just a whole bunch of other game modes that had been in previous iterations of the game. The last thing any of us wanted to see was another game that was gimped at launch due to a lack of content, especially a game that had been in development for this long. 343 also struggled with the release of the Master Chief Collection, which released as an absolute broken mess, and still to this day is being worked on to try and get it working the way it's supposed to. This could actually have led into a little bit of why Halo 5 was missing some content at launch, but it is clear that both of these games could have benefited from a delay. However, instead they released in various poor states, one broken and unplayable, and the other just missing major content features. Because of all this, I am glad to see that the game got a delay if 343 felt it would not be ready. We could speculate all we want, but without being inside the studio, we really do not know what the state of the game is right now. The release of Halo Infinite though is going to be extremely crucial for not only Halo Infinite itself, but also Halo as a franchise and 343 as a company. After 3 questionable products in Halo 4, the Master Chief Collection, and Halo 5, 343 needs to get Infinite right not only for the sake of Halo, but just for the sake of the studio. Halo as a franchise needs Infinite to be a great game to try and get back to the levels it was once at. While Halo still holds a good amount of name value to many of us older gamers, the newer generation is becoming less and less familiar with the franchise, and if we continue to have these games that are not great, it's only a matter of time before Halo is eventually forgotten. According to 343, Halo Infinite is going to be the game for the next 10 years, and while there are examples of live service games or ongoing multiplayers that didn't launch well, that have turned it around and are extremely healthy, Rainbow Six Siege and CSGO come to mind, there are many more that launched poorly and never recovered. Battleborn, Lawbreakers, Paragon, Anthem, Quake Champions, Radical Heights, and many others. These games, while not all bad, all had poor launches and are either completely dead and unplayable or basically on life support at this point. Some didn't even get all the way to a full release before being cancelled, like in the case of Paragon and Radical Heights. There is a very real possibility that if Infinite launched either lacking a ton of content or just in a general bad state, the same fate could have happened. We could have seen the player base plummet after release and Microsoft pull the plug on the project if they felt it wasn't worth the money to continue. Now, in all fairness, besides maybe Quake Champions, which is still playable, Halo as a franchise does have more name value than those other products, so it is possible that the name alone could have allowed Halo to limp along for years had it released poorly. But even if it had done that, there is no guarantee that 343 would have been able to turn it around. What we really need is Halo Infinite to come out of the gate extremely solid and then be built upon for years to come. This is what will really give Halo the best chance at success again, and that is what we all want to see. Now, what do I actually think will change between what we saw and what we'll get in 2021 when the game is released? Honestly, not a whole ton, and I think that is an expectation that everyone needs to understand. While yes, this is going to give 343 more time to polish the game and improve things like graphics, animations, and maybe even some of the sound effects, I truly don't believe that we're going to see any major overhauls in gameplay, besides maybe just some slight changes to how certain equipment works. Which, to be fair, is something that could have always been patched post-launch anyways, if certain equipment was too broken or just unfun. We're still going to see Halo Infinite be a quasi-open world game, we're still going to see sprint, and we're still going to see the grappling hook to some degree. Now, to be fair, we haven't seen multiplayer at all, so there is the slight chance it is going to be different mechanically, but if I had to put my money on it, I would assume that it's going to be pretty similar to the campaign gameplay and mechanics that we've already seen. 343 hasn't made any comments on this, but hopefully this delay allows 343 to put out a meaningful flight program to get feedback for the multiplayer. While, like I mentioned, the nature of this game being a 10-year project means balance updates and new content will be added throughout the years, it is still important that the core mechanics of the game launch in a decent state. What we don't want to see is 343 needing to rehaul major gameplay mechanics a year or two down the line after learning they don't really work. This would cause new content to be slowed down, so hopefully they can flight the game and get that feedback ahead of time and make sure that the core features of Halo Infinite work well and play well. I am also curious what this delay means for the Xbox One version of Halo Infinite. As you probably know, Halo Infinite is supposed to launch on the new Xbox and PC while still launching on the Xbox One, a now 7-year-old console, and possibly 8-year-old console by the time the game releases if it doesn't come out until later in 2021. This does worry me a bit, as I really hope that the old console doesn't hold the game back, and honestly, I wouldn't be sad if they just axe that port of the game altogether. I know this would upset some fans who don't plan on upgrading to the Series X or a PC in the near future, but overall I think this would lead to a more technically advanced game. Last thing I want to address before we get out of here is just the general fan reaction to the news, and I'm not going to name specific names, but if you're one of those people throwing a fit because Halo Infinite got delayed and it's taking too long to come out, I mean, just come on. If you're really that sick of the Master Chief Collection and Halo 5, there are literally hundreds of other games that you could go play in the meantime. You can expand your horizons a bit, or hell, you can even just take a break from gaming in general if you don't want to go and play a different game. You don't have to sit there and miserably grind old Halo games day after day if you're not enjoying it. There is a caveat to this though, and that is that I do feel bad for Halo pros and the bigger content creators. While what I was saying earlier applies to just general fans, pros and big content creators are greatly affected by this delay. For the most part, the reception from that front has been pretty positive, but their livelihood is affected by this delay. For pros, they're most likely not going to be getting any big money or major tournaments between now and when the Infinite releases, and for Halo specific content creators, viewership will undoubtedly be lower while we wait for the game. Hopefully 343 stays active and lets us see bits and pieces of the game to make content on and talk about, but regardless, content creators will be hurt by this. And just to be clear, I'm not talking about myself, I just mean those guys who do this as a legitimate source of income through either streaming or YouTube. Those guys are affected by this, and while many, like I mentioned, came out and said that they're happy to see the delay, this delay literally takes thousands to tens of thousands of dollars out of their pockets. So overall, the delay is a bummer. We all want a new Halo game, and that's totally okay to want that. Hopefully though, this delay will allow 343 to spend some more time polishing the game to deliver us the product that we all hope to see. Real Halo fans just want to see the best out of 343 and Halo, even if we are skeptical at times. So I really do hope that this delay allows 343 to hit it out of the park. I cannot even begin to describe how much I'd rather make videos on fun and positive things than on things like low player counts and issues with the game. And at the end of the day, even the YouTubers that you identify as negative towards Halo and towards 343 are the same way. If they truly wanted Halo to fail, they would have just gone off to do something else. The people that are sticking around have a love for this franchise and do just want to see it succeed like it can and has in the past. So go ahead and let me know what you think about the delay in the comments below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. If you want to catch me live or just ask me random questions, you can always catch me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Arrrash with 3Rs, or if that isn't enough me for you, you can follow me on Twitter at Arrrash with 4Rs. With that said, I'll see you all next time.